to the Insomnicat Show with Nicolette and Bryan. We'll get real deep with you, educating, inspiring, and solving problems with some of the most inspirational humans on the planet. Buckle up and come on the journey.
I'm excited. All right, so on this episode of the Insomnicat Show, you are not going to get any fun guests. You're going to get us today. We are your guests, and we're going to talk about mindset and mentality. So stick with us. Our mindsets aren't exactly the greatest today, so bear with us as we take on this topic.
Yeah, it's a rainy day here, and it's interesting how weather can affect your mindset. So maybe we should talk about that. But I think the first thing to actually talk about really is what's the difference between mindset and mentality, right? I know you and I discussed this the other day, and to me, mindset is just your way of thinking, right? And mentality is your attitude towards what you're doing or what you're thinking. How do you view them?
So I think what I want to do is start by kind of giving you the actual definition, right? Because I need to look them up. I know you need to look it up, right? So when you go to the dictionary, mindset is the established set of attitudes held by someone. Okay. Mentality is a way of thinking or the ability to think and learn. So there's also a definition in there that talks about mental ability, which I know is something that you kind of want to speak to. But so why do you think people? I mean, I can see why people confuse them, and the internet doesn't do a good job at kind of clarifying, because when you look up mindset, it gives you a synonym mentality. If you look at mentality, it tells you the synonym is mindset, but they're really not the exact same thing.
No, I mean, I think for me, mindset is straight out your attitude towards it. Like that's really what it becomes. It's your attitude towards whatever you're trying to accomplish or whatever you're trying to do. Where your mentality is sort of the way you go about it. That's how I define it personally.
So I agree. I think mindset is a way of, so it's kind of like your attitude toward something, right? Or I think it's something that has been, you've kind of learned it over time. Even there can be, the best way that I the only way I can make sense of mindset is when I look at like growth mindset versus fixed mindset. Like to me, that's what kind of clarifies it. Like a growth mindset where I believe that I can flourish and keep going. And, if it's like I am where I am and that's it, and this is where I'm going to be. And like, it's kind of the way I look at the world. Right? Are you saying the same thing?
I would agree. I think the important part, what you're saying there, is it's that belief system, right? It's that belief in yourself, that you're going to go and accomplish something. That belief is actually what the mindset itself is.
And I think that is kind of created, and to go back to what I just said, I think it's kind of created by the things that you're exposed to. And I do think that mentality and exposure to other things are highly, linked as well. But if you look at mindset, it's kind of like, okay, what were the words that people used? Like the language, and what were the ideas people had, and how were, basically like what habits did you learn, and what that kind of creates you. It's like your way of thinking. It makes you unique. That's your mindset. That's how you approach the world. And I mean, to me, that seems to be like, it seems to be everything. And that's where I think I get confused with mentality, because I'm like, okay, well, where does this come into play?
Well, I think mentality is sort of the approach you take, right? So two people could take the same approach, right? You and I could take the same approach, and you don't believe that approach is 100% going to work, but I believe it's 100% going to work. There's no way it's going to fail. And so the mentality is we're taking the same 5 steps to get to whatever conclusion there is, But our mindset is you're not sure it's going to work, where I believe it's going to work. And that's what the difference between mentality and mindset is. The mentality is just sort of those steps or those belief or that process you're going to take towards something, versus mindset, which is going, I know this is going to happen, or I know this is what's going to do, or I am going to accomplish this, versus, I think I can accomplish this, and I think that's the biggest difference between mindset and mentality. I mean, here's the question. I mean, you mentioned, capability. I mean, how much does that play into mentality, right? Because and I hate to say this, but we're all limited. There's only so much we could all learn and all do, and and how does that play a factor in this?
Well, yeah. I mean, I think that it dictates how much you can change your mindset, right? Like your mental abilities. I think it's going to determine your capability, right, in life, right? And because here's the thing about mindset, it takes a really long time to develop mindset, right? But wait, am I saying this backwards? Yes, it takes a really long time to develop a mindset. No. It takes a really long time to reverse a mindset, right? And it takes a really short time to learn it, right? So it's kind of, so if your mentality, right, if your mental ability is not kind of elastic almost, or you don't have a greater capacity, like how do you go back and make the changes that need to be made to change your mindset? Because everybody always talks about change your mindset, change your life, and mindset for success. And, how do you do that if you're not mentally, I don't want to say stable, of doing
it? Yeah, I understand what you're talking about. No, I mean, it's interesting because, and there are so many people in this world that they have the right mindset. They may not be the best at anything, so they may not have the greatest skill set in whatever it is, but their mindset is they have such an undying belief in themselves that they can almost accomplish anything, right? That they've put themselves in. And I think that's sort of what you're talking about, like we hear, like change your mindset. But I think that's those people, that's their mindset. I think for most people, we don't start out with that crazy mindset like we're going to accomplish this. I think mindset, and I know we're going to talk about this a little bit later, but mindset, is developed in various ways, and for various different people, and it works. Though how it works and how you get to the right mindset is different for people. Everyone's not the same, but there are people that have this undying belief in themselves without a doubt. Like you see it all the time.
And I think it's really important to bring up like patterns. And I know, like you said, we're going to talk about some of the things that you can actually do to change your mindset in the next episode. But, I think patterns and things that you can, you can like recondition yourself. And I think this applies to mentality and mindset. Like you can recondition yourself, right? You can change your mindset, but again, can you change your mentality? Like this is where I get stuck. Can you? I think you can. Now there's something that I read today, and I have to find the source for you, but I think it really helped me with mentality, and I think if it's all right, I want to read it. And I have to find a source for it because it was very helpful. So it's every thought we experience creates a chemical reaction in the brain, which then triggers an emotion, right? As we engage with this thought, it creates a new circuit that sends a signal to the body, and we react a certain way. The more we repeat this pattern, the more it seeps into our mind and becomes a habit. This is why neuroscientists say cells that fire together wire together. As you keep thinking the same thoughts, which I think that's where mentality comes in. I think that's what clarified it for me. As you keep thinking the same thoughts, producing the same emotions, and performing the same actions, you continue to live by the same experiences. So I think mentality is highly linked to thoughts. That's where I think that
okay. So Yeah, so I mean, really, what you're talking about is all of our brains are wired in a certain way, right? And it
Mhm.
doesn't necessarily mean, I don't know if it's genetic, I don't know what is innate versus learned, but our
Mhm.
brains are wired in a certain way, right? And basically, what's happening is those patterns are wired in there, right? And it takes a lot to change those patterns. It takes a lot to change those patterns. And I think what happens with a lot of people is whatever those natural patterns are, right, in their mentality or even in their mindset. What happens is if you're a self-doubter for whatever reason and things get tough, you start doubting yourself. You go back into those patterns, right, into that mindset. And to some degree, some of those things become wired. And how do you break those things? And for all people, it's different, but I do think mentality is definitely linked. And I could be completely wrong, so feel free to comment and put some research and stuff like that in here. But I think it is totally based on some of the physical aspects versus sort of the thought aspects, right? Where mindset is pretty much like how you're the attitude you're thinking with it. Where because I feel like a lot of times you see, I mean, I talk about this all the time where mindset is so much and you see people break and they just go back to whatever their innate instinct is, even though they know better, because their mindset goes away and then they just go back into whatever's the most natural to do versus actually going, okay, let me keep this positive mindset and whatever, accomplish something different or keep working towards my goal, and to me, that's sort of a big difference in it, the physical versus the attitude, if that makes sense. Because I don't even want to say mental there.
Well, I think what you're saying and what I think. Okay, so mental is like you said thoughts in there, right? And you were talking about
Mhm.
thoughts, and I think that the mentality
Mhm.
is the thoughts that you think before you break, right? Like I think
Mhm.
that you can have a certain mentality without like your mindset shifting, right? Like
Mhm.
I think like
Yeah.
this is just my opinion. I think you have
Right. We're not
um,
scientists here or
yeah,
doctors.
no, I've got nothing for you in the science department. But so you have a pattern of thinking, right? A way of
Mhm.
thinking. I don't think that's your mindset. These are the thoughts. And maybe this is the self talk, right? This is like I'm you could be like
Mhm.
like us. Like we think we're pretty kick ass, right? We're let's go get them and let's do it,
Yeah.
right? And you can think in your head for a while. You could have a period of time where you're like, "Fuck, I'm never gonna." Sorry, well, yeah, we curse. I'm never gonna do that. This is impossible. What's going on here? Everything's going wrong. Nothing's going right, and you just repeat the same shit over and over again. I'm never gonna get everything done. I'm never gonna whatever. I'm never, right? And so eventually, like you're in a pretty bad mental state, right? Like you're pretty negative. That doesn't mean your whole mindset is completely, screwed up, but perhaps eventually that changes your mindset, right? Because remember, it doesn't take much to develop a mindset. It
Mhm.
it does take a while to point it back, but it doesn't take that long. If you just talk to yourself negatively for a while and you had a really messed up mentality, right? You could change your whole mindset.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
No. Absolutely.
Does that make
Absolutely.
sense?
Yeah. I think I see mindset as it's almost like the process of the thoughts, meaning like here's how I get from step A to step B to step C to step D to whatever, right? Where mindset. So like you and I could both go like say we're just solving a really simple math problem. 1 plus 1 is 2, and and just look at it that way. And 2 plus 2 is 4, and 4 plus 4 is 8, right? That's how we approach it. We're just doubling those numbers. Where some people may actually have to draw a 1 and then draw another 1, and that's sort of how mentality works. I know that's a very simplistic example of it. That's mentality, right? So we could have the same mentality of approaching something. And I know I'm using math here, and it's not based on math, but you get my point. We could have the same mentality to approach it. But I am positive I'm going to get the answer, and maybe you're not positive you're going to get the answer, so you give up at 2 plus 2, even though you really could do 2 plus 2, but you give up because why am I doing this? This is stupid. right? And that's, thinking like, okay, this is stupid, adding this together is the mindset, where the mentality is actually going 1 + 1 + 2 plus. You see what I'm saying? Is mentality in a simplistic way. Does that make sense?
Now, if anybody has a really good way to differentiate between mindset and mentality, can you please let us know? Because
Yeah.
not, we know they're different, but we
Right.
don't know exactly how to explain they're different.
But here's the thing. Here's what we know. Mindset can actually really help you accomplish a lot of things, whether whether you think so or not. I'm going to use Henry Ford, where you think you can or think you can't, you are correct. And basically that's the truth. It's that belief system in yourself. You look at so many people that accomplish great things. We were talking about this yesterday. Like, who is to say what is possible and not possible? Like, who is to say that? And we talked about this in the context of the Wright brothers, right? I'm sure a lot of people told them, no, you can't fly. Like, you'll never be able to create a flying machine. And they believed they could, and they did, and they had that belief in it, where tons of people didn't believe it was possible at that point. And there was no real proof that it could be done, except for other examples of like birds and whatever, hot air balloons at that time, or whatever was going on, but there was no proof. But they were out to prove like they could actually create this. And they believed in themselves so much they did. When tons of other people would have been like, yeah, I give up. I give up.
Well, and so what we want to do, and what we want to talk about on the next episode of the Insomnicat Show, because you got 2 fun episodes of Bryan and Nicolette this week. So, and if you are watching, it's super dark in here, and that is not my mindset. So that does no effect, or does it? Right? You said weather affects your mindset, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think everyone feels better when it's sunny out.
It's true. It's true. You feel optimistic, like the world there's so much possibility, right?
Yeah, unless you're a vampire, then you sort of like don't like it.
No. But what we want to do is we want to talk about actual practical ways to change your mindset, aside from like get a good night's sleep, and I think that Bryan and I think that it's so important to actually give some practical advice instead of just talk about mentality and mindset and then leave it with nothing. So we are going to talk about that on Tuesday. So tune in for that.